Hi, my name is Nate Sahaki, and this is my submission for the ENGR101 I video. I had a student come to me, Sammy here, and he was very confused about the differences between pass by value and pass by reference in C++ when we're dealing with functions. And so I wanted to go over some examples and just define what actually pass by value and pass by reference means. So the best way I think about to look at this is to first understand exactly how memory looks in a computer from a very high level. So essentially, in our computer, we just have a bunch of these blocks, okay? And in these blocks, each of these have a memory address. Okay, we'll say 101, and let's say it goes to 150. And in these memory blocks, we can store the values from our variables that we have in our program. And so let's create a little simple program to just look at this and define what pass by value and pass by reference means. So of course, we need our main function. And let's say in main, let's say we have a variable called my cup, representing a cup. And let's say my cup equals 0. It's an empty cup. We don't have anything in there. And so what the computer is going to do is this value, when we define it, let's say it's going to choose address 100, and this is something the computer decides. And that's where it's actually going to store this value of 0 in memory at address 100. Okay? Now let's say we have a function called fill cup, because we, of course, when we have a cup, we want to fill it. Okay? And this void keyword right here, that just means that the function's not going to return anything. And let's say in our fill cup function, let's say we want to add, let's say we'll add 6 to represent 6 fluid ounces. That's a reasonable amount. Okay, so what happens in our main function when we call fill cup with my cup? So this is where the differences between pass by value and pass by reference come into play. So when we're passing something by value, what we're essentially doing is we're creating a copy of that value, and we're using that copy in this function right here. And so that is just denoted by when we're declaring a function, just like this, int cup. We're not adding anything special, we're just declaring it as we would like in our main function. And so when we do this and we pass my cup into this function, what essentially it's doing is this function right here is taking that value, which is stored at address 100, which is where my cup is stored. It's making a copy of that value there, which is 0. Okay? So when we actually perform the computation and add 6 to it, it's going to impact this value right here, where we made a copy of it. And it is not affecting our original my cup value whatsoever. The only changes happen with inside the function. My cup is still going to be 0. So if we were just write some pseudocode here, let's say we want to print out my cup. We expect this value to be 0 because we're passing it by value, making a copy of it. It's making a copy of this value, my cup, at a different memory address, and that is what we are actually modifying. Okay? So nothing outside of this function scope is being modified because we're passing it by value. Now let's look at something different. Let's look at the idea of pass by reference. And pass by reference means we actually want to modify that value that we're passing into the function. Okay? And how we denote this in C++ is we just use an ampersand. So you have int ampersand cup. Now, what this is saying, what this ampersand means, it's saying take that address where this cup right here, my cup, where that is located, in our case it's address 100, and that's the value or the variable we're actually going to use, the memory location we're going to use. So when we do cup equals cup plus 6, because we're passing by reference denoted with this ampersand, it's taken this address right here, which is the same address as my cup. So now these are essentially pointing to the same thing, and it's adding 6. So it's affecting the value outside of the function call. They're both referring to the same value. So when we print out my cup, it's now going to be 6 because we're passing it by reference. So just to recap, when we pass something by value, we're making a copy of that, and it is not being modified outside the function scope whatsoever. Only within the function is it being modified. When we pass something by reference, it's actually modifying that variable outside of the function, because now that function and that variable are now referring to the same thing in the same memory location. These are both referring to the same thing. So a change here also corresponds to a change in this actual variable right here. And so I hope that clears things up for pass by reference versus pass by value. Thank you.